Hey everybody, Tim here with today's episode of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, Season 6, Episode 19, In the Pale Moonlight. I have my returning co-host, Janine, with me. We did the documentary, What We Left Behind, together. And Janine told me that this was her favorite episode of just the series or the entire franchise?
Just the series.
Just Deep Space Nine?
Yeah. Okay. Just this season, actually.
Oh, okay.
Because I have a different favorite for every season.
Nice. Which is good.
Yeah.
So, favorite episode of this season, so I wanted to bring you along. I had zero memory of this episode, except for one scene. One scene jumped out at me. So, overall, this episode was intense.
Yes.
Like, this episode was scary. I thought it was interesting how technically this episode happened 2 weeks ago.
Right.
Because he talks about, like, it's been 2 weeks since this happened. And the whole, like, premise is him breaking the fourth wall. He's just staring in the camera looking at you. So overall, I guess this episode is just about, like, showing how different Sisko is from Picard.
Exactly.
Like, if you ever have somebody that's like, oh, a Starfleet captain's a Starfleet captain's a Starfleet... No. Like, show them this episode and any episode with Picard. Mm. So, what brings you to this episode? Like, what do you like about this episode?
Well, for me, all throughout my life, I have conversations with myself about things that I think I've done that are questionable. Mm-hmm. And so this really brought it home for me because I have conversations in my garage about things that I'm going to do or wish I had done. And basically, it comes down to if you can live with your decisions, Right. I mean, because every decision has consequences, good, bad, or indifferent. Mm-hmm. And so that's why at the very end when he says, I could live with it. Mm-hmm. And he tries to show that he's comfortable, he could live with it. But can he really live with it, So I don't think that's the end of the question,
And so I like this episode. I thought this was a good episode. But I had a problem with it. There's a lot of shit that happens in this episode.
Right.
Like, this episode, after finishing, we just watched it like 30 seconds ago. This episode could have been a two-parter.
I think it should have been.
Super easy.
I think it should have been
easy.
Yeah.
So the main focus of the episode is about Sisko trying to bring the Romulans into the war. Because we got the Federation.
That they are losing.
That they're losing. We got the Federation. We got the Klingons.
And the Cardassians are
on the other side. And then Romulans are kind of, they're Sweden. They're in the middle.
Right.
And then Sisko wants to bring the Romulans to the Federation side. And then we see, like, Beta Z was just attacked, which I think
Beta Z fell.
Right, fell. Which I think this is the first time they've mentioned Beta Z.
Right. Mm-hmm.
In Deep Space Nine, for at least since the last time we saw Luoxana.
Right.
Which makes me question where Luoxana is. Hopefully she's okay somewhere. And it's just about Sisko making questionable decisions on whether he's okay.
Even though the Federation agreed with his plan. Mm-hmm. I mean, they gave him permission.
Oh, did they?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's still, he's the one that had to face the senator. He's the one that had to make everything happen. So.
Which, that's the scene that stuck out to me. So, Sisko he rescues somebody from Chancellor Gowron, a criminal, and this guy makes a holo program with Wei Yun, played by the amazing Jeffrey Combs. He's a great actor. And he gives this thing where it's the Cardassians and Wei Yun talking about, like, we're going to attack the Romulans to the Senate. And that's the scene that actually I do remember is him holding it. He's like, it's a fake.
Yes.
It's a great episode. It's a terrible line.
Yeah.
I felt like he was just an actor that was like, I get one shot. Like, let's make it worth it. It's a fake. But overall, like, yeah, it was intense. And kind of like you said, like, to a different extreme. I don't know why, but this episode made me, not me personally, but kind of made me think about people who cheat in relationships.
Right.
Like married couples. Like, because you always see, like, a man and a woman, and, like, I'm a guy, so I'll throw guys under the bus. The guy ends up cheating on his wife. And it's the same thing. Like, can he live with this or not? And then sometimes he admits to his wife.
And how they justify it.
And how they justify it.
Right.
And sometimes he admits it to his wife. Sometimes he goes on for the rest of their marriage and never talks about it. Did you get that type of a connection, or is this just me trying to?
Like I said, it's every questionable decision. So yeah, you can bring it to that. You can bring it to ethical concerns at work or with your friends or family. I mean, this can boil down to every kind of decision you face, you know.
I mean, I'm kind of a fatty guy, a little bit. So, like, if I'm going to eat an entire cheesecake right now, that's a questionable decision, especially if Jordan had already thought about eating it, and I'm like, no, mine now. But yeah, no, it almost goes to like the multiverse type thing, because every decision you make, if I decide I'm going to like eat a whole cheesecake, a different part of me said no, and now there's two different versions.
Right. Or a third version that ate half.
Yeah.
A fourth version that's shared.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, it says
there's no version of me that shares.
There's never. Science says that whatever possibilities can happen, and they happen instantaneously. So.
And we've seen that in Star Trek with like the mirror universe and stuff like that. So now I'm wondering if like the version out there where Sisko doesn't do this.
Right. If they fell,
what happened to the Federation?
Yeah, exactly.
So. But yeah, this was an intense episode.
I really enjoyed it because it's so intense.
Mm-hmm.
I like things that hold my attention, So, and like I said, there's so many parallels to life. I can think of all kinds of decisions where I felt like that, where it felt that intense.
Right.
Of course, the fate of the world didn't hinge on it, but it
the
felt
fate of mankind.
The fate of
my
world
questions.
did. So, I mean, I can identify with that.
And that's something people don't usually think about, like. If I do something today, if I don't wash the dishes, or if I do wash the dishes, is that going to affect mankind as a whole? No, it's not.
No.
But if I don't wash the dishes right now today, when my husband gets home, like, are we going to have a fight? Could that lead to a ruined marriage? And that's my world.
Right, exactly.
And that's
every decision you make can impact your own world. So that's why I like this, because I know he was dealing with a much larger picture, but you can apply this to any decision you make. I mean, there are repercussions. It sends ripples out, and it depends on what they are, so but the intensity of the episode is what I really enjoyed, because I faced some really intense decisions, and so
for sure.
I really could identify with his feelings, and then ultimately deciding he could live with it, because what choice do you have?
Right.
Later on, when he goes crazy, maybe that was part of the reason why.
I don't know. And part of me, so like I said, I have very little memory of this episode, so I don't even really remember the repercussions of this episode, if there are any at all. But towards the end, where he sits back, and like you said, he kind of crosses his legs, he's like, I can live with it. I don't think he can.
Right, exactly.
Like, I think he's just saying it to himself over and over again.
Trying to convince himself, yeah.
Like, I wake up every morning, and I get dressed for work, and I'm like, you got this. I love my job. I love my job. I love my job. And then you go to work and you're like, fuck this. Like, this is awful.
I hate these people. What's wrong with these people?
But, and I don't know. Like,
you missed the girl that came in naked yesterday. Well,
no, I saw it. I was there. So, when he sits there and he lays back and he's like, I can live with this. I made the right decision.
Right.
I could do this. I don't think he can.
No, I don't think he could either. And we all have those decisions in our lives where we thought we could live with it, and yet the consequences come up later. One way or the other, these things come up. So sometimes it's self-torment. People abuse themselves because they can't live with decisions that they made. They can't let go of things that happen. So yeah, that's why I like this episode, because I found it very intense, and I could identify on many different levels. And I agreed with him. It was a good plan, but it wasn't considering the consequences. So I understand why they did it. Self-preservation was the main goal, but was that enough justification to bring another group of people into a war where millions more were going to die? I don't know.
If that, billions.
Right,
even,
exactly. Yeah. So I don't know. Was it a good decision?
I like, but I think it's interesting that he almost didn't make that decision.
Right.
Garak made that decision, which that was a fantastic. So I've said over and over again.
But why did he go to Garak?
Yep.
Maybe, because he could have pulled off the plan with Dax.
That's true.
So he went to Garak because he knew that Garak was going to be prepared to do things that he didn't want to know about. It's almost like You know, he could plausible deniability. You know, but he knew what he was doing when he went to Garak in the first place.
Yeah, and I've said over and over again, like Garak is one of my favorite characters.
Yes.
Like he's so every time you think you have him figured out,
Right?
like, nope, he
does
doesn't.
else.
And like at this point, like we're 6 seasons in, almost to the last
Right.
season. Like it's like, okay, Garak, I know Garak. I 100% I got him down. And then you watch this episode and Garak is the one who planted the bomb
Right.
to kill the senator
And
you're like
kill the forger.
and kill the criminal, yeah. And you're like where did this come from? And like Sisko just decks him in the face. And then like exactly like you said, Garak's like, this is why you came to me.
Right, exactly.
Like you knew what I was gonna do.
Yeah, exactly.
So like this episode just has like so many twists and turns. But
And look how nonchalant though Garak was when he was talking about him contacting all his contacts, and they were all killed within the day of.
and he's
talking
like,
to
oh yeah,
you know, they're all dead. You know, and he still continues to do his tailor work.
all
Like,
these people were killed a day
Yeah,
after talking
yeah.
to me. Whatever.
and yet he still had other people that he could resource because he still did what he had to do. So.
But so kind of in that same like motif, like there's this episode has all of these twists and turns, but I feel like it doesn't. Like this
Right.
episode is a straight path.
It really is.
And we, with a moral compass, don't want to see that, and
Right.
we add the twists and
Yeah,
turns.
I think so. I think you're absolutely right, which is why I like the
Yeah,
episode.
This is a good episode
Because it really makes you think. I mean, it makes you go there.
Mm-hmm.
And so you have a safe venue to go there because this is a make-believe kind of thing. But you can apply it in your own life.
Which
I
is
mean,
what Star Trek in general does.
Exactly. But this one in particular, Deep Space Nine in particular, it makes you take on, I mean, not just the happy feeling, you know, lovey kind of feel. I mean, it makes you go deep into your own self. You really have to examine your own motivation,
So
your own, you know, goals, you know.
to kind of balance the two, see if you agree or not. Like the original series and even the Next Generation took social issues
Right,
that
yeah.
we as a collective had to deal with.
Right.
So, for example, race.
Right.
The original series, very, very heavy on race. The kiss between Kirk and Uhura, I forgot what it's called, the race where they're white on one side and black on the other. Like, very, very heavy because it was the 60s. It was a heavy social thing.
And these were things that we supposedly overcame in the future.
Right. And even Next Generation dealt with like the free love and stuff like that. Whereas Deep Space Nine takes those social issues
Turns
a
it
step
inward.
further,
Yeah.
and it takes it inward. Like,
Yeah.
if you're in the middle of a war and you're losing, are you willing to bring in 1 billion other people to win this war?
Right.
And
What is your justification for
And
it,
Sisko's like, I can live with this.
Right.
Whether he can or not, I don't know. But I feel like, because Deep Space Nine really deals with like drug use and prostitution and all of these
Well,
inner
they deal
ones.
with everything that people don't want to face in reality, you know.
Or the past tense episode where it's
Right,
the
yeah.
homeless people, like,
Right,
oh, we're just going to
exactly.
round them up and put them in a neighborhood.
Right.
We're living
that right now,
now.
exactly. And so I that's part of the reason why DS9 and Voyager, I kind of vacillate between the two. But DS9 is probably my favorite series in the genre. But partly because it makes you really, you have to examine yourself. You have to look at, it's not just, you know, the group mentality. You have to look at yourself because you are part of this group. What you do matters. How you decide matters, you know. So it has an impact. But this episode in particular honed it in because there were just too many parallels I could draw.
Yeah.
I was like, wow. Oh, damn. I thought I could live with that. I can't live with that.
Yeah. And it's hard
Yeah,
sometimes.
it is. It's hard to face yourself. That is, I mean, we self-sabotage all the time because we don't want to face things in ourselves.
For sure.
So it's the hardest thing.
And you have to wake up every morning and you're like, I got this.
Right.
I can
See,
do this.
Yeah. Face yourself in the mirror.
Yep.
Say, yes, I can do this.
Yep.
This is who I want to be.
Mm-hmm. And then, like, especially for Sisko, kind of that same thing. This is who I want to be.
Right.
Not even necessarily. Like, this is not who I want to be. But for Sisko, like, he has Jake. This is who I want my son to be.
Right,
Like,
exactly.
Like, can I live with bringing 1 billion people to a war? No, I can't. But if I don't, my son might not have a future. And now he does.
Right.
Which I kind of wish Jake had been in this episode.
Yeah, that's why it could have been a two-parter. There were a couple of people they could have added to, to really bring it home and make you think, and that would have been a really good dimension to add,
Because especially, like, what if, like, he was on his way to the senator with the fake,
right?
And, like, he runs into Jake, and Jake's like, you know what, thank you for being a role model. Like, shit, can I live with this now? Like, this episode could have easily
any number of things they could have pursued, and unfortunately they didn't. But I still thought, all in all, for the episode, it was very intense, and I thought it really, really gave out a good message about, inner growth.
Right.
So.
And I like the title, which I'm not 100% sure if they stole that from Batman or if that was always a reference.
No, that's always a reference.
Because have you ever danced with the devil in the pale moonlight?
Right.
Okay, I've only ever heard it from Batman.
Oh.
Because that's what the Joker says.
Yes.
But yeah, overall, I thought it was a great episode.
Well, I'm glad you liked it.
Yeah, I'm good.
I'm glad I could share it with
I know, right? Do you have any closing thoughts?
No, but if you haven't seen it lately, you should definitely watch it again and look at it through a whole different lens, because I really think it's an important thing.
So agreed. So, like 25 years ago, I was a wee lad. So I don't have a whole lot of memories about stuff, but I was around. So again, to go back to the past tense review, where they're like, oh, you're homeless, we're going to round you up and put you in this community. I don't remember that being a lot around back then.
Right.
But I feel like kind of like you just said, if you haven't seen this episode in a while, like, look at the way...
It's time to revisit it.
Look at where we're at today as a society. We're halfway through 2019. We're in the middle of wars. We're dealing with all sorts of political stuff that I try to, like ostrich myself in the ground because I don't want to think about it, which,
but
shame on
again,
me.
that is also an impact.
Right.
I mean, you work in the neighborhood where they literally took homeless people out of the $1 million waterfront and moved them back into our neighborhood, and we deal with the consequences of those actions every day.
I mean, where we work, I call the cops 3, 4, 5 times a day.
They're there every day.
So, like she said, if you haven't seen this episode since it aired 20 years ago, 10 years ago, if you saw this episode last year, rewatch it and see where we're at as a society, and we're going a hard direction.
Yeah,
and we need to make
really
some tough judgment calls where one person might not like themselves for that call, but the lives of the many outweigh the lives of the few.
Right. Or the one.
I got that in there.
There you go. Yeah, you did.
Yeah, worked well.
But it's true. We have to decide what's best for the group and not just for a select few.
For sure.
And right now, unfortunately, in our politics, it's for the select few.
Right.
So we're following the wrong golden rule.
There's not really like a middle class anymore. Like it's up higher class and lower class.
Yeah, it's he who has
when I was younger, there was
rules.
that middle. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So we're following the wrong golden rule. We need to get back to the other golden rule where we're all in the same fucking leaky boat.
Yep.
Bail or row.
Yeah. It's true.
So that's what I think. So, but that's why I like this episode. That's why I liked the other one that you were mentioning about the homelessness. See, they made that.
And I know that was good. Just about to say, I was like, that was a two-parter. Like,
it was.
I don't know.
And it's very relevant today. So.
Yep. But
relevant.
hindsight.
I could speak that word.
But, okay. So, anything?
Nope, that's it.
So, thank you guys for watching. Thank you guys for subscribing and everything. If you guys have seen this episode, let me know what you guys think. If you haven't seen it in a while, go back, rewatch it. Let me know what you think. Thank you guys for everything, and I will see you guys next time for episode 20, His Way.
Bye.